So today's Heartspace topic, I was thinking and contemplating how should we module the heart space. So we understand from this beautiful ancient yoga text called the Sriman Bhagavatam. It's one of the Puranas. They actually give you a shape of the heart. And the heart looks like this. Can you all do this? See what it looks like? This is what the heart, the spiritual heart looks like. So if you look, there's 8 petal lotuses. It looks like a lotus flower. When you open up your fingers, you will see it's very beautiful. So this is a lotus flower, and it has 8 petals all around. And in the middle, there's the core. So it makes it 9. So we're going to talk about the 9 petals of the heart. In Sanskrit, it's called Goloka Vrindavan. So the heart is in the shape of a lotus flower. So in yoga, we commonly use this expression, your heart is so soft, like a rose flower, right? So in yoga, we understand this metaphor. It represents the 9-petal lotus. Or it can also be known as 9 islands. Nava Dvip. So we're just going to uncover one of the petals of this lotus. So we're going to open one of the petals of this lotus. This will represent opening up a piece of your heart. And so this petal of lotus represents Sravanam in Sanskrit. Sravanam means to hear. Now, how is hearing connected to the heart, right? It makes no sense. Maybe it does. But it is a very, very, very important and a very powerful tool to get into the heart. For us to get into our own hearts, to be able to listen, to hear ourselves, and to be able to listen to others. You may notice it's a common problem. We are very much talented in listening to our minds. You can be sitting here in this class or in this room here, but you're actually not present here because you are where your mind is, not where your body is. So most people in this world, their body is in one place, the mind is in another place, and the heart is somewhere else. So that is why we feel tremendously disconnected in this world. Disconnected from what? Disconnected from reality, disconnected from ourselves, disconnected from others, friends and families, because we are completely split. We are not able to be present. There is a big difference between hearing and listening. And then beyond hearing and listening is Sravanam, or hearing with the heart. So we're going to cover these 3 dimensions. So hearing normally is when you don't have a choice. It's an involuntary action. You're in the room and you can hear different sounds. You can hear people talking. You can hear various sounds. So those are sounds that are constantly going in and out. Sometimes if there is something that is catchy, then your hearing will change to listening. Sometimes we call it eavesdropping, right? That means you're very, very attentive and curious as to what is it that they're saying. I heard my name being called out. What are they saying? So that is called listening. Listening means it's voluntary action. That we are curious, there is a serious attention, there is receptivity to what is being conveyed. So in other words, there is an active ingredient when we talk about listening. You are interested in the topic. It piques your interest. There may be something that you can derive out of that dialogue. So that is called listening. So in Sravanam, it goes beyond hearing and listening. And how is it different than hearing and listening? Does this hearing and listening make sense to all of you? Okay. So listening means being here now, present. Hearing means you're absent. Many times people will talk to you and you can look them in the eye, but you're not present. You're just being there because you want to be nice. Does anyone ever do that? Sometimes it's, because we don't want to be rude to them, so we just hear. But we are not present. So absent is when we're hearing, and being present is when we're listening. So the next stage of this, the third level of this is called Sravanam, or hearing with the heart. It's very, very important. So what is hearing with the heart? Hearing with the heart literally means you are hearing with your ears, listening with your mind, and getting that information down to your heart to try and absorb and understand what this person is conveying to you. Now, a lot of the times when we go through this process, there's a lot of blockages because sometimes it doesn't resonate with the heart. You will notice when people speak to you from their heart that it generally doesn't take a lot of effort for you to be situated in your heart and be able to hear what they're saying. Because they're just directly speaking to your heart. So what we are seeing is that there is an important criteria for heart communication, to listen and hear from the heart, for Sravanam, that we have to decipher who the speaker is and who the listener is. If either one of them is not qualified, then the hearing does not become, Sravanam does not become very, very productive and conclusive. And is not very, very fruitful. And it's interesting, I'll give you a small story from the Puranas. There was this great sage who, by the sheer power of his austerities and penances in previous life, while he was in his mother's womb, they were from a very mystical family. While he was in his mother's womb, his father was speaking the ancient yoga texts and reciting the mantras. And while he was in the womb, his name was Sukadev Goswami. And while he was in the womb, he was able to hear everything that his father was narrating to his mother. In yoga, we understand that when the children are in the womb, 5 months, they can hear and understand everything that is being conveyed to the baby in the womb. So this boy is listening to the ancient Vedic teachings while in the womb. And he came across and he finds out that to get out into the material world, there's going to be a lot of temptations. So he voluntarily chooses not to come out of his mother's womb. He just wants to be there. He does not want to get entangled in this material world. And his mother is complaining, is in pain. And the father is like, son, can you please come out? Your mother is in pain. He said, no, I don't want to come out because when I come out into this world, I'm afraid I'm going to be entangled in material life. And he says, I promise you, son, that you will not be entangled in material life. So he said, okay, if that's the case, So he comes out of his mother's womb. She goes into labor and this baby comes out, and he happens to be 16 years old. And he starts walking. He takes up birth, and by the time mama gets to get up, imagine this baby is gone. And the father keeps chasing the baby behind, and the baby is running for his life as fast as he could because he did not want to be connected too heavily to the material world. And he didn't want to say anything because he realized that every word that comes out of someone's mouth, it has a very strong impact, not individual, but global impact. How is that possible? Because sound pollutes ether, or sound purifies ether. Every word that we say, it can lift somebody up, or it can bring them down. All the emotions in this world is a byproduct of sound. Even the emotions that we carry within ourselves, they are a sound frequency of the thoughts in our minds. And so therefore, the sound, he understood from birth, is very, very powerful. So he refused to say anything. I do not want to waste my breath and ruin this beautiful world. And then finally, as he was walking around, wandering around, he came to the bank of the Ganges River, which is a holy river that's coming from the Himalayan mountains. It's called the Ganga River, where thousands and thousands of people bathe every single day. It's called a very powerfully charged holy river in India. So when he finally made it to the bank of the Ganga, he noticed there were thousands of sages sitting on the bank of the Ganga, bathing in the Ganga, and they were having spiritual discourses. So when he came there, he still didn't say anything. At that time, what was happening is there was a great king named Parikshit, and he was cursed to die in 7 days by a young sage who was upset with him. So he was just trying to find somebody to give him some sort of enlightenment so that his life, the next part of his journey, would be a beautiful passing. You know, there are people in this world that help people leave this world peacefully. Like during COVID in Atlanta, I had to help at least 7-8 people leave their bodies to go to their next destination. So we chant a lot of mantras, we pray, all those beautiful rituals we can do to make life so easy for them and not to struggle and hold on. So similarly, Sukadeva Goswami was trying to find someone to help him lift his consciousness and enlighten him. And he saw this young boy wandering around on the bank of the Ganga, very effulgent, brilliant boy, completely naked, completely carefree, completely detached from the body. So when this king saw this person, he immediately bowed down with complete humility. And he says, "My dear sage, can you please tell me the purpose of my life?" And this question, when someone sincerely, as we discussed last week in our Heartspace, there is 3 steps to spiritual inquiry we discussed last week. One was, you have to submissively approaching, and then humbly inquiring. And the third one is to render service. Render service means to follow the instructions. So he followed all those 3 steps to the T. And immediately the heart of this young sage, Sukadeva Goswami, melted with transcendental compassion. And he said, I just have to ask you that because you have asked this question, that in order for me to speak to you, you have to make a pledge. He said, anything, please tell me what is the pledge. He said, I will not stop speaking for the next 7 days. Morning, 24 hours, I will be speaking on the purpose of human life. That means no sleeping, no eating, no bathroom breaks, nothing. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. When you're a yogi, you stop eating. It's not a problem. So he made the pledge that I'm happy to answer your questions. And he, as a student, agreed that for the next 7 days, I will not eat, sleep, no bathroom breaks. How is this possible? Now I want to explain to you how this is possible. The physical need of the body is actually very, very minimal. Very, very minimal. The real need that we have is emotional food, intellectual food, and heart food. The physical food is only one of the many dimensions to our existence. There are sages who don't eat for days and days, sometimes months, and they can just live simply on prana, the air. I have a friend here, I came to visit him. His name is Gauravani Prabhu. He's a very, very famous Kirtaniya. And he was telling me how he lived on water for 21 days, just drank water for 21 days. And the last 5 days, he was living without water. But if simple yogis nowadays can do it, imagine what, the days before us, what capable powers they have had. They could do things with their minds and with the different dimensions of their existence. So for 7 days, all he ate and drank was the nectarian narration of beautiful, loving exchanges of transcendental, unalloyed, pure love. In Sanskrit, it's called Bhakti. And the more he heard about the loving affairs, I don't like the term affair because it seems like something is wrong, but like loving exchanges between people, between God and other beings, between celestial beings, between humans and nature, and all of these beautiful descriptions. It was so deeply enriching his life that he completely was inundated and flooded with transcendental love that was emanating from his heart. The person who is speaking and the person who is listening or hearing, there is nothing but a powerful spiritual transaction or exchange that is happening. Is one heart speaking to another heart. And this is called Sravanam. So in our heart space, what we are working to do is we want to try and communicate with each and every one from that space of heart. Not doing a mathematical calculation with the mind and trying to analyze with our intelligence. Is this the right, person to talk to? We are really, really genuinely trying to ascertain the unique experiences that we could have in this life simply by communicating from the space of bhakti, from the space of heart. So one more point before our time runs out is that we want to also understand what is it that we should listen to, what is it that we should hear in order to cultivate and nurture this heart. Because everything that we hear in this world is going to have some sort of an intention where this person who is speaking will want to somehow have your buy-in to their ideas and thoughts. There is an intention behind communication. There is not, when there is no intention behind communication, this is what we call nonsense. But normally there is always an intention behind the communication. So how do we gauge what we should listen to? So this yoga text explains we should listen to what truly nourishes our heart. For example, if you turn on CNN, Fox, all these news channels, what will you get? That will give us more and more fear into our lives. We are literally paying money and buying fear every single day. And we subscribe to different channels by paying them $7, $9, $10. We're buying fear. We're buying anger. We're buying all these qualities into our lives. So it's very important to understand that we need to stop purchasing all these qualities and emotions that we do not need to sustain and nurture the beautiful heart that we're trying to cultivate through this process of bhakti. So that is number one thing we don't do. So what do we do? We have to hear only glorifying positive things in this world. Things that are uplifting. Things that will get you be high all day long. And if you look at the Vedas, the ancient yoga texts, they are some of the most uplifting information out there. So that means we have to read some more ancient yoga texts. Like what? Like Sriman Bhagavad-Gita. This is a dialogue between two friends. It happens in the middle of a battle. One of the friend, Arjuna, he's stuck in the middle of a battle. What do I do? My family members have deserted me and they're attacking me, and they want my kingdom. They want to take away all my possessions. What do I do, my dear friend? Please help me out. And then Krishna explains to him and lifts him out of that dark space. So these are books that we can read, yoga texts, thousands of years old, that will lift you up from the space of darkness. There's other yoga texts, many yoga books. If you look at Sriman Bhagavatam, for example, it's a powerful book that gives us very detailed processes on how to truly cultivate and nurture the divine human spirit and connect it to the divine. So there's all this amazing. So this is what we consume in order to lift our heart, right? Anything that is always lifting, anything that does not lift your spirits, does not nurture the pure love, pure bhakti in the heart, then we have to put a little pause on it and give it some more time and thought and contemplation. So this is number one. What is it that we should connect with? And who should we connect with? You will notice in your life there are many people in this world who lift you up. We need to seek out people that will lift us up every day. We need to come closer to them. And that's what sangha is. Sangha literally means to associate with people that has the ability to lift us up. Everyone in this world, does everybody have somebody that can lift them up? Raise your hand if you have somebody. Yeah. So we need to take advantage. We need to make a list of all those people. And we need to call them so that we are constantly lifted up. So that's the second. What is it that we need to connect with in order to really hear, do Sravanam? And who is the second part. And then we have to do the third part is we have to make sure whoever that we are listening to, whatever it is that they're sharing with us, what is the source of that knowledge that they're sharing with us? There will be some people who can lift you up because they're good motivational speakers. They can pump you up and then you're good. And then after 15 minutes, an hour, you need another dose. And then you need another dose. And this dose never ends. So in yoga life, what we do is we always try to make sure that people who share something with us, that it is coming from an authentic place. That it should have the right source. If the source is not correct, then what happens is then again, we'll start to feel dry. So the source of knowledge, as we discussed last week again, we gave you a 3-step vetting process. Anyone remembers? We gave you a 3 beautiful step vetting process. They're called Guru, means a teacher. Sadhu means other saintly people. And Shastra is this yogic texts. You will see all of this is called a GSS system. They have the GPS system, the navigation guide, and we use the GSS system. We want to make sure whatever it is that we are absorbing it in our heart, it should be vetted. And if it's not vetted, you may not get the right thing. Because there are so many products out there that are not real and authentic. But they can be claimed to be, this is a real apple, but it may not be the real apple product. It can look like it, feel like it, work like it, but maybe not. So we have to make sure that it comes from an authentic source. And that way to authenticate that is Guru, means a teacher. Teacher is someone who shares their heart with us without expecting anything in return. Like nothing. Simply your loving eagerness to nourish your heart and move forward in life and lift yourself up. And then Sadhu is someone who is also practicing spirituality on the same path as you, maybe a little bit more ahead of you. And Shastra means, Astra means a weapon. And Shastra means spiritual weapon. That means knowledge. Krishna in the Bhagavad-Gita, he says, Jnana Deepena Bhaswata. Or with the torch of knowledge, you can slice ignorance and destroy ignorance. So those are the 3 steps that is given for a vetting process. So in this way, we are able to see what is the source of whatever it is that you're listening to. So you can authenticate it to make sure that it is the right product, it is the right knowledge that should enter your heart. And if you protect your heart in this way, then your heart will always grow very beautifully and flourish. But if you don't protect your heart through this vetting process, to going through the process of asking questions to make sure that you are really getting the true essence, then your heart can actually get trampled upon. And many of you may have experienced in life, when the mind is guiding the heart breaks. When the intelligence is guiding the heart breaks. But when the heart is guiding the heart will never break. because the heart genuinely will only connect with another heart. But how can we connect one heart with another heart if we are not in the heart? So therefore, yoga is saying, Bhaktyamam abhijanati. In Sanskrit, it is explained, it is only through love that you can get love. Krishna explains, only with bhakti, only with love. So therefore, the emphasis for our discussions this week, this coming weeks, will be all about understanding the importance of hearing. Hearing from the heart, with the heart, for the heart, for the heart. And making sure heart is the center of our life. How do you discern what is truly coming from your heart? Authentically, and is not coming from your mind or your intelligence. It's a very beautiful question. It is a journey. What we are discussing is actually a journey. To be in the heart, it is something that is going to require a regular daily practice, daily sadhana. Unless we are daily practicing our sadhana, we are not going to be able to stay in the heart, because the mind always wants to go everywhere else. So I have explained this, mind is like a child. They just want to take everything down and they want to grab everything. And the intelligence is the mother. So therefore, intelligence has to rationalize with the mind and bring the mind with the intelligence and take shelter of the heart. So this process, it's a long-time process, but how to gauge it is simply by knowing that you're truly, essentially happy in every circumstance in your life. No matter what happens in your life, you are happy. Something good happens, you're happy. Something so-called not good happens in your life, you're still happy. Those are symptoms. Everything in this world is gauged by symptoms. You cannot see if someone has a mental problem unless they start talking and opening their mouth. That's why they have to go to shrinks, right? And then you're able to see certain symptoms. Everything in this world has certain symptoms. And only when those symptoms become very loud and clear and overt, then you're able to see what is going on. But you'll notice when you're situated in your heart, you're not affected by any distractions. Na sochati na kangshati. You have no lamentation, no hankering. You're not disappointed if someone lets you down or someone offers you something, something is taken away from you. You're not disturbed by anything because you're simply situated in the heart, because it is the space of absolute abundance and fulfillment. Mind is not a place of abundance and fulfillment. The intelligence is not. Yoga explains it is the space of the heart. That is complete abundance and absolute fulfillment. So that is how we can gauge ourselves whether or not we are operating from our heart. But please be patient with yourselves. This takes time. But we have to be committed to our heart to spend time in our heart. That's why I've always recommended Heartspace meditation every day. Give your heart an hour every day. Minimum, give your heart an hour and see how it transforms you. Not will it only transform you, it'll actually help you transcend. Sometimes we think transcend means go beyond, but go beyond the mind is where? In the heart. With this Sravanam that we're hearing, that we're referring to, is beyond hearing and listening. It's called Sravanam, to hear with the heart. A very important point, when you hear with the heart, what it really, really means is you take it to heart. And it's an action. For example, if If your mother tells you that they really, really love you and they want to do something for you, when that action, when that thought and emotion is translated to action, then it becomes very heartfelt. For example, I'm sharing my heart with all of you, not because you are, there is something that I expect from you. It is simply because this was the desire of my guru, my teachers, who have wholeheartedly given me their heart. And their knowledge and their sincerity and their humble offerings to me to change and mold my life to become a practitioner of bhakti is how to simply give that to others. And because I shared with others, this is called Sravanam. That I follow what my teachers have told me. This is Sravanam. That means there's an action behind the instruction, behind the sharing of the heart. If you tell someone you love them and it only remains verbal, that's all it remains. I love you, I love you. There's no flowers, there's no cooking, baking, there's no, teas, there's nothing. You'll think, what is this? I come home and, he hasn't gotten me a flower in the last 20 years. And, there's flowers are so cheap, they're everywhere. And he knows I love flowers. He doesn't get you flowers. But he tells you, you look like a rose flower, or you look like this flower, that flower, and nothing. So it has to transcend that. And in yoga, the Sravana means to actually apply the loving, heart-touched instructions and suggestions that our teachers give us. Like I have committed to following a certain style of life because I genuinely value my teacher's contributions in my life. He wanted nothing from me other than my pure, eternal spiritual joy. So that means, Sravana means to actually follow the good advice for our own selves. And when we follow it for ourselves and we experience this higher taste of living from the heart space, then we know we are doing real Sravanam. That means we are operating from that heart space. And so this is the first petal of the lotus, Sravanam.